Ambassador Sarah Chun stood in the grand hall of the Galactic Council and tried not to feel small. The chamber stretched upward for what seemed like miles, its walls covered in symbols from 1,000 different worlds. Around the delegates of 12 ancient species sat in seats designed for bodies, nothing like her own. She was the first human to stand here as an official member. 50 years of observation, 50 years of tests and questions and waiting, and finally, Earth had been granted provisional membership in the Council. She should have felt proud. Instead, she felt like a child at the adults' table. The Vrelnath delegate spoke first. Its body was crystalline, towering 15 feet tall, glittering under the chamber's lights. When it moved, the sound was like breaking glass. "We welcome the humans to this council," it said, its voice resonating through translation devices. "Your species has shown remarkable progress for one so young." Sarah smiled and nodded. She had learned to smile at a lot of things during the diplomatic training. "Your world is quite beautiful," continued a Craxi representative, a being that looked like an armored bear crossed with a mantis. "Such gentle conditions. Comfortable gravity, abundant water, mild temperatures. A true garden world." There was that phrase again. Garden world. Sarah had heard it dozens of times during the observation period. The aliens said it like it was a compliment, but something in the tone always felt off. Like they were patting Earth on the head. "We're quite fond of it," Sarah replied, keeping her voice pleasant. The Veshan delegate, a floating mass of tentacles and bioluminescent patches, drifted forward. "This brings us to an important matter. The Council has prepared a proposal for Earth's integration into galactic society." Sarah's briefing had prepared her for this. Her hands remained relaxed at her sides. "We're eager to hear it. Given your species' unique circumstances," the Vrelnath continued, "the Council believes it would be prudent to place Earth under protective administration. You would contribute your agricultural expertise and your entertainment media, which we find quite creative. In exchange, the Council's military forces would handle all defense and deep space exploration." The chamber fell silent. Sarah could feel 12 pairs of alien eyes watching her, waiting for gratitude. "That's a generous offer," she said slowly, "but Earth prefers to maintain its own defense fleet." The reaction was immediate. The Craxi's mandibles clicked in what the translation device rendered as laughter. The Veshan's lights flickered in amusement. Even the Vrelnath's crystalline body seemed to chime with mirth. "Forgive us," the Craxi said, trying to compose itself. "But what threats could your species possibly handle? Your gravity is barely half of what my people evolved in. Your atmosphere is so gentle that our children vacation on worlds harsher than Earth." "We appreciate your concern," Sarah said, maintaining her smile. "But we've decided to keep our fleet." The Vrelnath leaned forward. "Please understand, Ambassador Chun, this isn't an insult. Your people are simply built for different purposes. You're scientists, farmers, artists. Let the warrior species handle the dangers of space. There's no shame in accepting your nature." Sarah felt something cold settle in her stomach. Not anger, exactly. Something older than that. And what nature would that be? "You're a garden world species," the Veshan explained, its tone patient. "You evolved in paradise. No mega-predators. No extreme weather. No crushing gravity or toxic atmosphere. Your bodies are fragile. Your lifespans are short. These aren't criticisms, merely observations. Every species has its strengths." "And you believe conflict isn't one of ours," Sarah said. "We've studied your history," the Craxi said. "Your wars, yes. But compared to the unification wars of my people, they're minor skirmishes. When the Craxi conquered their first solar system, we lost more soldiers in a single battle than humans have lost in all your recorded conflicts combined. The other delegates murmured agreement. Sarah watched them, these ancient species who had ruled the galaxy for millennia, and wondered what they actually saw when they looked at Earth. "So you're voting to place us under your protection, whether we want it or not," she said. "It's for your own good," the Vrolnath said. "The galaxy is dangerous. There are threats out here that would terrify your people. Pirate fleets that have defeated Council peacekeepers. Void creatures that can tear through military vessels. Rogue AI swarms. You're simply not equipped for these challenges." Sarah took a slow breath. Back on Earth, the human fleet waited for her signal. 50 years of building in secret, using technology the Council didn't know they had. 50 years of preparing for this exact moment. But her orders were clear. Don't provoke. Don't reveal. "Not yet. I understand your position," she said. "But I must formally decline on behalf of Earth. We will maintain our own defenses." The Craxi War Master shook his massive head. "Tell me, Ambassador, what possible threat have you encountered that makes you think you need a military? What battle have you won that gives you this confidence?" Sarah met his eyes. They were yellow and cold, the eyes of a predator. She wondered if he could see the same thing looking back at him. "We haven't won any great battles," she admitted. "We just prefer to be prepared." "Prepared for what?" the Leshan asked, genuinely curious. "For whatever comes," Sarah said simply. The Council exchanged looks. After a moment, the Vrolnath spoke again. "Very well. If humanity wishes to maintain this pretense of military readiness, the Council will allow it. Consider it a learning experience. When you encounter true danger and realize your limitations, we will be here to help." The vote was called. 12 species voted to allow humanity to keep its fleet, but the record would show it was done over the Council's recommendations. To humor the naive newcomers, to let them learn their limitations the hard way. Sarah thanked them politely and returned to her ship. Once safely aboard, she sent an encrypted message back to Earth. "They think we're weak. They're not hostile, just convinced we're children playing soldier." The response came from Admiral Okonkwo. "Do we correct them?" Sarah thought about the Craxi's yellow eyes, about the way the Vrolnath had chimed with laughter, about 12 ancient species who had forgotten what it meant to be prey. "Not yet," she typed. "Let them think what they want. They'll learn eventually." She closed the connection and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was dangerous. Pirates and void creatures and rogue AI, the Council had said. Threats that would terrify humans. Sarah almost pitied them. They had no idea what humans did when they were terrified. They ran toward the danger, not away from it. They had done it for 300,000 years on a world that had tried very hard to kill them. The Council would learn. The galaxy would teach them, or humanity would. Either way, the lesson was coming. She just hoped everyone survived it. 6 months after the Council meeting, the transport ship New Horizon carried 3,000 human colonists toward their new home in the outer reaches. The journey was supposed to be safe. The route had been approved by Council navigation. The ship was clearly marked with Earth's diplomatic codes. The Zelthran marauders didn't care about diplomatic codes. They came out of nowhere. 12 ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel in a perfect intercept pattern. The New Horizons captain, a woman named Rodriguez, saw them on her sensors and felt her stomach drop. She'd heard the stories. The Zelthran didn't take prisoners. They took cargo, ships, and anything they could sell. Bodies went out the airlock. "Send the distress signal," she ordered. "Full spectrum. Make sure someone hears us." The communications officer's hands shook as she worked. "Signal away, Captain. But the nearest Council patrol is 6 hours out." "Then we hold for 6 hours," Rodriguez said, though they both knew it was impossible. The lead Zelthran ship broadcast a message in broken galactic common. Human ship. Stop engines. Prepare for boarding. Comply, and some may live. Rodriguez looked at her crew. Young faces, old faces, people who had signed up to start a new life, not to die in the void. She thought about her orders from Earth Command, about the protocols every human ship carried, about the promise that help would come. Send one more message, she said quietly. Emergency code Broken Arrow. Tell them we're going to buy whatever time we can. The Zelthran opened fire. The New Horizons shuddered as energy weapons hammered into its shields. The ship wasn't built for combat. It had minimal weapons, basic armor, shields designed to handle debris and radiation, not military-grade assault. Shields at 40%, someone called out. Rodriguez gripped her chair. All non-essential crew to the escape pods. Combat teams, you know what to do. The Zelthran war captain watched from his bridge as the human ship's shields flickered and died. This was almost disappointing. The council had spoken of humans like they were something special, but they died just like everyone else. He ordered the boarding teams to prepare. That's when the human reinforcements arrived. They came in fast. So fast that the Zelthran sensors barely registered them before they were in weapons range. Not the clumsy cargo haulers the pirates expected. These were warships, sleek and dark, moving with a precision that seemed impossible. The Zelthran war captain wasn't worried. His fleet had fought council peacekeepers before and won. These humans were supposed to be weak, soft things from a gentle world. He ordered his ships into combat formation and powered up weapons. The human ships didn't bother with warnings. They didn't demand surrender. They just opened fire. The first volley caught the Zelthran completely off guard. Not energy weapons, which their shields were designed to deflect. Physical projectiles, thousands of them, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. The lead Zelthran ship's shields held for exactly 3 seconds before collapsing under the sustained bombardment. Evasive maneuvers. The war captain screamed, but the humans had already anticipated that. They had spread their fire pattern, covering every possible escape route. 2 more Zelthran ships exploded as kinetic rounds tore through their hulls. The war captain had fought for 20 years. He'd raided hundreds of ships. He knew combat, but he'd never seen anything like this. The humans moved like they were reading his mind, anticipating every tactic before he could execute it. One of his ships tried to flee. A human destroyer broke formation and pursued, taking fire from 3 other Zelthran vessels to stay on target. The war captain watched in disbelief as the human ship's shields failed, as its hull breached, as atmosphere vented into space. Any sane captain would have retreated. The human captain rammed his dying ship into the fleeing Zelthran vessel at full speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of white fire. The war captain felt something cold crawl up his spine. They were willing to die. Not just willing. They treated death as a valid tactical option. All ships, focus fire on their command vessel, he ordered. If they could take out the humans' leader, maybe the rest would break. The humans didn't have a command vessel. They all moved independently, coordinating through some system the Zelthran couldn't detect. When the pirates concentrated fire on what they thought was the flagship, 2 other human ships immediately moved to shield it, taking the damage meant for their companion. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, the Zelthran had lost every ship except the war captain's flagship, and that was only because the humans let him go. They wanted a witness. The war captain jumped to faster than light speed and ran. Behind him, human crews were already moving to rescue survivors from the New Horizon. 23 human ships had been destroyed. Every single crew had been recovered by the escape pods before the ships were sacrificed. They had planned to lose ships. They had planned for their people to die. But they had also planned to save everyone they could before that happened. The war captain's report to the Zelthran High Command was brief. Do not engage human vessels. Repeat, do not engage. They are not what the Council believes. News of the battle spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The Council's intelligence division received the footage and analyzed it in stunned silence. The Vrelnath military advisor watched as a human destroyer deliberately took fire to protect a damaged cruiser. Watched as the crew evacuated before ramming what was left of their ship into an enemy carrier. They fight like they expect to die, the advisor said quietly. Every tactical decision assumes acceptable losses. The Craxi War Master reviewed the same footage. His people were warriors, born to fight. They understood sacrifice. But this was something different. When a Craxi warrior died in battle, it was glorious, celebrated. The humans didn't treat death as glorious. They treated it as necessary. There was a coldness to it that disturbed him. They died for each other, he said. Watching the crew of the destroyed ships appear on their companions' vessels. Alive because the sacrifice had bought them time to escape. Not for territory. Not for victory. For each other. An emergency council session was called. Ambassador Chun attended via hologram. Her expression was calm, almost pleasant. We are pleased to report the colonists are safe, she said. The New Horizon has some damage, but will reach its destination. Ambassador, the Vrelnath said, its crystalline body darker than usual. We've seen the battle footage. Your tactics were extreme. We defended our people, Chun replied. That's what militaries do. You sacrificed 23 ships, the Veshan said, its lights pulsing with agitation. Your people died when they could have retreated. Some of our people died so that more could live, Chun corrected. That's an acceptable trade. The council chamber was silent. The Craxi War Master leaned forward. Ambassador Chun, your people fought with a coordination we've never seen outside of hive mind species. They made decisions that prioritized group survival over individual survival. They used their own ships as weapons. This is not the behavior of a garden world species. Sarah Chun's smile didn't change. Did we ever say we were a garden world species? Or did you just assume that because our planet is pretty? You let us believe you were weak, the Vrelnath said. No, Chun said quietly. You decided we were weak because we're small. Because we come from a blue world with comfortable gravity. Because we smile and talk about peace. We never claimed to be weak. You just never asked what we actually were. She ended the connection before they could respond. The council sat in silence, looking at each other. 12 ancient species who suddenly realized they had made a terrible miscalculation. The humans weren't weak. They had just been polite. There was a difference, and the galaxy was about to learn what that meant. 3 weeks after the Zelthran incident, Dr. Yavex stood before the Galactic Council with information that would change everything. The counselor was a historian, one of the most respected researchers in the galaxy. His species, the archivists, had documented the rise and fall of civilizations for 10,000 years. He looked nervous. Honored Council, he began, his translator rendering his clicking speech into Galactic Common. My team has completed the archaeological survey of Earth that was authorized after the recent military engagement. What we found is deeply concerning. The Vrelnath delegate shifted in its seat, crystalline body chiming softly. Concerning? Elaborate. Dr. Yavex activated a holographic display. The image of Earth appeared, blue and green and beautiful. We began our study under the assumption that Earth was a standard garden world. Mild climate, abundant resources, low gravity. The type of planet where intelligent life develops without significant evolutionary pressure. That assumption was correct, was it not? The Veshan asked. No, Dr. Yavex said flatly. It was catastrophically incorrect. He changed the display to show geological data. Earth has experienced no fewer than 5 major extinction events in its history. Asteroid impacts. Volcanic eruptions on a scale that would sterilize most worlds. Ice ages that covered half the planet. The most recent major event occurred only 12,000 years ago. The Galactic War master leaned forward. Many worlds have harsh histories. This doesn't explain human combat behavior. I'm not finished, Dr. Yavik said. He brought up genetic data. Approximately 70,000 years ago, a supervolcanic eruption nearly ended humanity. Genetic analysis suggests the entire species was reduced to between 1 and 10,000 individuals. They should have gone extinct. Most species would have. But they didn't, the Vrelnath said quietly. They didn't. They survived through what appears to be sheer stubbornness. And that's not even the most disturbing part. Dr. Yavek changed the display again. We examined Earth's fossil record, specifically the megafauna that existed alongside early humans. The hologram showed massive creatures. Enormous bears with faces like nightmares. Cats with teeth like daggers. Crocodiles large enough to swallow a Craxi whole. Birds of prey with wingspans that dwarfed any atmospheric craft. These creatures, Dr. Yavek continued, were apex predators, each one capable of killing an adult human with ease. Earth wasn't a garden world. It was a death world. A planet where everything was trying to kill everything else in an endless evolutionary arms race. The council chamber was silent. The Deshan's bioluminescent patches had gone dark. And the humans? The humans hunted them, Dr. Yavek said. All of them. These aren't extinct because of climate change or disease. They're extinct because humans killed them. Frail, weak humans with no claws, no armor, no venom. They made weapons from rocks and wood, and they hunted creatures that outweighed them 10 to 1. They pulled up more data. Worse, they didn't just hunt for defense or food. They practiced what's called persistence hunting. They would chase prey for days. Not hours. Days. The prey would run until their hearts gave out, until they literally died from exhaustion. And the humans would just keep running. The Galactic War master stood abruptly. That's impossible. No species can run for days. Human biology is optimized for exactly that, Dr. Yavek replied. They're endurance predators. They can regulate their body temperature through sweating, something almost unique in Earth's animal kingdom. They can maintain a steady pace almost indefinitely. On their world, they weren't the strongest or the fastest. They were the ones that never stopped coming. The hologram shifted to show human history. Wars. Thousands of years of warfare. Cities burning. Armies clashing. Weapons growing more sophisticated with each generation. This is their cultural record, Dr. Yavek said, his voice hollow. They've been fighting each other for their entire recorded history. They developed agriculture, writing, mathematics, art, and philosophy, and they used all of it to find better ways to kill each other. They split the atom and immediately made it into a weapon. They reached space and brought weapons with them. Surely they must have achieved peace at some point, the Deshan said. A golden age of enlightenment. They're still fighting, Dr. Yavek said. Even now there are conflicts on Earth. Minor ones compared to their past, but present nonetheless. They didn't unify through enlightenment. They unified while still holding weapons, because they realized they had to work together to reach the stars. But they never put the weapons down. The Vrelnath delegate spoke, its voice resonating with something that might have been fear. Doctor, are you telling us that we invited a species of persistence predators who have never known peace into the Galactic Council? Yes, Dr. Yavek said simply. But it's worse than that. Show me another species that practices total war. Show me another species where civilians support military efforts. where entire populations mobilize for conflict, where they sing songs about dying for their comrades and build monuments to their dead. He pulled up images of Earth's memorials, stone walls covered in names, graves stretching to the horizon, statues of soldiers. They worship death, not in a religious sense, but culturally. They tell stories about last stands and heroic sacrifices. They celebrate the moments when their people chose to die rather than surrender. It's woven into everything they are. An emergency recess was called. The council delegates gathered in private chambers, speaking in hushed voices. Finally, they called for Ambassador Chun. She appeared in the hologram, and for the first time, the council really looked at her. Small, yes. Fragile-looking, certainly. But her eyes were the eyes of something that had been prey once, long ago, and had decided it didn't like being prey anymore. Ambassador Chun, the Vrolna said carefully. We've reviewed Dr. Yavex's findings, his assessment of human evolutionary history and culture. We have questions. I'll answer what I can, Sarah said. The Craxi War Master spoke next. Why did you let us believe you were weak? Sarah was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was gentle but firm. We never said we were weak. You saw our planet and assumed. You looked at our bodies and decided we couldn't fight. But every species on Earth is in an arms race with every other species. The plants evolved poison, so animals evolved resistance. Predators evolved claws, so prey evolved armor. It never stops. It never stopped. Including you, the Deshan said. Especially us, Sarah corrected. We didn't have claws or armor or venom. We had endurance and we had each other. So we made tools. We made weapons. We made plans. And we never ever stopped trying to survive. The Vrelna's crystalline structure seemed to dim. Dr. Yavex showed us your military history. Thousands of years of warfare. Do you deny this? Why would I? Sarah asked. Yes, we fought each other. We still do sometimes. We're not proud of all of it, but we don't hide from it either. That's what we are. We're survivors who learned to work together when we had to, but we remember how to fight when we must. You brought weapons to your first peace, the Craxi said quietly. Sarah nodded. We did, because we know that peace is something you have to be strong enough to protect. We tried hoping for the best. We tried trusting that the universe would be kind. Earth taught us that hope isn't enough. You need to be ready for when hope fails. The council members looked at each other. 12 ancient species who had ruled through wisdom and tradition, suddenly facing a species that had clawed its way up from the bottom of the food chain and never forgot the taste of blood. What do you want from us? The Vrelnath asked. From the galaxy? Sarah smiled, and there was warmth in it, real warmth. The same thing we've always wanted. Peace, trade, friendship. We meant every word we said about cooperation and diplomacy. We're not here to conquer or threaten. We're just done pretending to be helpless. And if we had tried to force you into our protection, the Deshan asked. Sarah's smile didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. Something old and patient and utterly unyielding. Then you would have learned what we do when someone tries to cage us. We've spent 300,000 years refusing to give up. We're not about to start now. The hologram disconnected. The council sat in silence, processing what they had learned. The humans weren't weak. They had never been weak. They were just very, very good at appearing harmless until the moment they needed to bare their teeth. And the galaxy was about to discover just how dangerous a cornered human could be. The Zephan arrived 3 months after the council learned the truth about humanity. They came from beyond the galaxy, a swarm intelligence that consumed everything in its path. Entire star systems went dark as the Jathan stripped them of resources. leaving nothing but empty void behind. The Council's fleets engaged them at the border systems. It was a massacre. The Zathan learned from every battle, adapted to every tactic. Energy weapons that worked in the first engagement were useless in the second. Battle formations that succeeded once failed the next time. The swarm was relentless, tireless, and it was winning. The Council's war room filled with desperate voices. Fleet Admiral Krenix of the Vrelnath stood before the holographic display, watching red markers swallow system after system. We can't stop them. Every time we adapt, they adapt faster. We're losing 3 ships for everyone we destroy. Then we evacuate, the Craxi War Master said, and the words tasted like ash in his mouth. His people had never retreated from a fight. We abandon the border systems. Pull back to the core worlds. Save what we can. That means leaving 42 inhabited systems behind, the Deshan delegate said, its lights flickering with distress. 17 billion people. 17 billion dead if we stay and fight a battle we can't win, Admiral Krenix replied. I'm sorry, but we have no choice. The vote was called. It would take unanimous agreement to authorize a full retreat. The Council prepared to abandon the border systems and hoped the Zathan could be stopped at the core. Then Ambassador Sarah Chun's hologram appeared in the chamber. Don't vote yet. Every eye turned to her. The Vrelnath Admiral's crystalline structure darkened. Ambassador, unless humanity has a miracle to offer, this doesn't concern you. Your systems aren't threatened yet. No, Sarah agreed. But the Kepler Nexus is. That's the choke point to the inner systems, correct? If the Zathan take it, they have a straight path to Earth, to Vrelnath, to Craxi, to all of us. Which is why we're evacuating, Admiral Krenix said. We can't hold the Nexus. We've run every simulation. The Zathan will overwhelm any force we put there within days. Then don't put your forces there, Sarah said quietly. Put ours. The chamber went silent. The Craxi War Master stood slowly. Ambassador Chun, the Nexus is a death trap. Whatever fleet we station there will be destroyed. You know this. Yes, Sarah said. We know. Then why would you volunteer for a suicide mission? The Leshan asked. Sarah's expression was calm, almost peaceful. Because someone has to hold the line. Someone has to buy time for those 17 billion people to evacuate. Someone has to stand between the darkness and everyone else. That's what you do when there's no good choice left. You make the hard choice and you live with it. Or you don't live with it, but you make it anyway. Admiral Krenix leaned forward. Ambassador, I've seen the reports of your battle with the Zelfern. I know your people are capable warriors. But this isn't a battle you can win. This is just buying time with lives. Your lives. We're very good at buying time, Sarah replied. It's what we've been doing for 300,000 years. And we're not afraid to pay the price. The vote was delayed. The human fleet mobilized for the Kepler Nexus. 50 ships, every military vessel Earth could spare. They jumped into position and began fortifying the choke point, knowing they were settling into their own graves. Captain James Torres commanded the carrier Indomitable. He looked at his crew, young and old, veterans and rookies, all volunteers. Every single one of them had known this was a one-way trip when they signed up. Listen up, he said over the ship-wide comm. The Zathan are coming. We're going to hurt them. We're going to make them pay for every inch of space. And we're going to give the Council enough time to save those 17 billion people. That's the mission. That's all that matters. His tactical officer, a woman named Park, looked up from her console. Sir, the first wave is entering sensor range. My God, there's thousands of them. Then we'd better get to work, Torres said. The battle for Kepler Nexus lasted 3 weeks. The historians would study it for centuries. The Zathan came in waves, expecting the humans to break like every other species had. But humans didn't break. They bent, they bled, they died, but they didn't break. When the indomitable shields failed, Captain Torres ordered all non-essential crew to the escape pods and used his dying ship to ram the largest Zathan vessel he could find. The explosion took out 6 enemy ships. When the destroyer Defiance was boarded, the crew fought room by room, corridor by corridor. When they ran out of ammunition, they used tools. When they ran out of tools, they used their hands. The last transmission from Defiance was someone singing an old military song about standing firm. The Zathan adapted. They learned human tactics, human weapons, human strategies. But they couldn't adapt to the one thing that made humans dangerous. They couldn't adapt to a species that simply refused to acknowledge when they were beaten. On day 12, the human fleet was down to 20 ships. Admiral Jang, now the ranking officer, sent a message to the council. We can hold for another week, maybe more. Get those people out. The council's evacuation fleets worked around the clock. 17 billion people loading onto transports, fleeing toward the core systems. And at the Kepler Nexus, humans died to buy them time. On day 18, 5 ships remained. On day 20, there were 3. On day 21, the last stand was the only human ship still fighting. Its captain, a man named Rodriguez, who had lost his sister on the New Horizons 6 months ago, broadcasted one final message. To anyone listening, we held. We held as long as we could. The Nexus is yours now, but we made you bleed for it. We made you pay. And the people we were protecting are safe. That's enough. That's all we needed. Rodriguez out. The last stand detonated its reactor in the middle of the Duthan swarm. The explosion was visible from 3 systems away. When the Council's reinforcements finally broke through on day 22, they found the Nexus filled with debris. Human ships and Zathan vessels twisted together in a graveyard that stretched for millions of miles. There were no survivors, no retreats, no surrenders. Just silence and wreckage and the proof that 50 human ships had held against thousands. The memorial service was held on the Council's home station. Every human who fought at Kepler Nexus was honored. Their names were inscribed on a wall that would stand for 10,000 years. Representatives from every Council species attended. The Craxi War Master gave the eulogy. His voice was heavy with something that might have been shame. We called them weak. We called them soft. We looked at their small bodies and their short lives and their gentle planet, and we decided they couldn't fight. We were fools. He paused, looking at the names on the wall. Thousands of them. Humanity wasn't weak. They were restrained. There is a difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. Humans chose peace while being exquisitely capable of war. They smiled and spoke of cooperation, and we mistook kindness for weakness. When we needed warriors to hold the darkness back, they didn't hesitate. They didn't demand rewards or recognition. They just walked into the fire because someone had to, and they were willing to be the ones. The Leshan delegate floated forward, its lights pulsing in a rhythm that translated as morning. We evacuated all 17 billion people, every single one, because 50 human ships bought us 3 weeks. They paid for those lives with their own. Admiral Krenix approached the memorial wall, placing one crystalline hand against the names. I told Ambassador Chun that Kepler Nexus was a suicide mission. She said yes, she knew. I asked why they would volunteer. She said someone had to hold the line. The Admiral turned to face the assembled crowd. The Council's official records are being amended today. Humanity's classification has changed. They are no longer listed as a Garden World species. The new designation is Endurance Predator, Apex Survivor, Death World Species. Approach with respect. Ambassador Sarah Chun stood at the back of the ceremony, watching from Earth via hologram. Her eyes were dry but red. She had cried all her tears in private. Now she stood straight and still, honoring the dead the way her people always had, with silence and remembrance. After the ceremony, she received a message from the Council. It was brief and formal. The Galactic Council requests that humanity accept a permanent seat on the Military Command Council. We have learned what you tried to tell us from the beginning. Strength isn't about size or power. It's about knowing when to be gentle and when to be hard, and having the courage to be both. Sarah read the message twice. Then she composed a response. Humanity accepts with the understanding that we still prefer peace. We still want cooperation and friendship. We still believe in diplomacy first. But we will always be ready to hold the line when peace fails. That's what we are. That's what we'll always be. She sent the message and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Zathan were still coming. There would be more battles, more sacrifices, more last stands. But the Council understood now. They understood that the most dangerous species in the galaxy wasn't the biggest or the strongest. It was the one that refused to give up. The one that would stand between the darkness and the light and say, quietly but firmly, no further. The one that had spent 300,000 years surviving a death world and decided that if they could survive Earth, they could survive anything. Humanity had finally shown the galaxy what they really were. Not weak, not soft, just very, very patient and absolutely, utterly unwilling to quit. The Council had wanted to protect them. Now they understood the truth. Humanity didn't need protection. They were the protection.